Part 4. Letters from the Tribe. These letters are more than words on a page. They are voices reaching into the silence of your aloneness. They are bridges built across the gulf of disconnection. Each story carries the weight of courage and the gift of recognition. They remind you that you are not broken and that you are part of something bigger. In their truths, you may find your own reflection, your own hope, and in receiving them, you are welcomed back into the circle of tribe. You are not forgotten. You still belong. These letters are proof that the bond remains alive, unbroken, and waiting for you to step back in. Chapter 16, Introduction to the Letters. There is a sacredness to the pages that follow. What you're about to encounter is not simply a series of letters, but a gathering of voices carved out of service, sacrifice, and survival. They belong to veterans, to first responders, and to families of the fallen. Each letter is more than ink on paper. It is a testimony of a life lived in the crucible of duty, courage, and consequence. These voices do not speak for recognition or acclaim. They speak to hold the silence that has grown too heavy to carry alone. They speak because someone out there, perhaps you, needs to know that you are not walking this road without companions. They speak because the wisdom earned through hardship, through loss, and through resilience deserves to be shared, not hidden away. In these letters, you will find the unpolished truth of what it means to serve and to endure. They are written not from theory or distance, but from the heart of lived experience. They hold within them the grit of battlefields, the weight of sirens in the night, the ache of funerals, the disorientation of transition, and the stubborn hope that healing is still possible. Among these voices are those who once wore a uniform into places of danger. Veterans who marched into uncertainty, who carried their brothers and sisters through fire, who returned home with invisible wounds that refused to fade. They bring with them the wisdom of endurance, the knowledge that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Their letters remind us that service does not end when the uniform is folded away. The battlefield follows them home in sleepless nights, in echoes of grief, in the hollow silence where camaraderie used to be. Yet, they write not as victims, but as carriers of history and memory. They bear scars that testify to both the cost and the worth of service. Through their words, they hand us something precious. They hand us the reassurance that strength and vulnerability can coexist, and that even the most battle-hardened hearts still long for connection. Beside them stand the first responders, the guardians of our streets, towns, and cities. They are the ones who run towards the chaos we flee, who steady their hands in moments when everything else is breaking apart. Their lives are measured in calls answered, in lives saved, in losses grieved quietly in the aftermath. They know the weight of responsibility. They know what it is to stand at the threshold between life and death, often more times than they can count. And they too know the loneliness of a world that does not always understand the price of their vigilance. In their letters, you will hear stories of valor, but also of vulnerability. You will hear about the cost of always being strong, of always being the one others depend upon. There are also voices here that come from another sacred ground, the families of the fallen. Their stories carry a different weight, one born not of the battlefield or the emergency call, but of the empty chair at the table, the folded flag, the silence that follows the last goodbye. Their wisdom, is the wisdom of deep and lasting grief and loss that does not diminish love. They remind us that memory can be both a wound and a balm, and that the human heart can break but still continue to beat. They remind us that service is never born by the individual alone, and that it ripples through homes, marriages, children, and communities. Their letters hold out a hand to those who mourn, saying, "You are not alone in this ocean of grief." They testify that even in the darkest waters, there are voices calling from the shore, ready to pull us back when we cannot find the strength to swim. What binds all these voices together? Veterans, first responders, and families of the fallen, are the attributes forged in the fire of service and loss. They speak to the possibility that courage can continue even when fear is overwhelming. They show us that loyalty can hold steady when others falter, and that integrity can endure, and that suffering can give birth to compassion and healing. These letters attest to a resilience, hope, love, and faith that circumstances can bend one, bruise the heart, stretch us into the darkness of the soul, but that we need not break. These letters are gifts from the hard journeys through the darkness of the night that have been carved in hearts and etched into the soul. These are qualities that make these letters worth reading, not as sentimental reflections, but as hard-won truths offered from one protector to another. The wisdom you will encounter here is not always gentle or easy. It comes from those who have been tested beyond what they thought they could endure. It comes from the battlefield and the firehouse, from the squad car and the hospital corridor, from funerals and from nights when grief threatened to consume everything. It is the wisdom of knowing that silence can be deadly, that isolation can be a prison, and that the strongest thing you can do is admit to needing others to walk with you. It is also the wisdom of discovering that identity does not vanish when the uniform is taken off. The courage, discipline, and devotion that shaped service still live on, waiting to be rediscovered in new forms. It is the wisdom of a love that survives the grave, love that endures through trauma, and love that calls each of us back into connection when we would rather turn away. As you turn the page into this collection of letters, you are stepping into a sacred circle. These writers are inviting you to sit with them, to hear their stories, and perhaps to see yourself reflected in their words. You may find echoes of your own journey, your own battles, your own questions, your own grief. You may also find sparks of hope and reminders that even in the darkest nights, there are others who understand, who have walked this road, and who extend a hand toward you. These letters are not polished speeches, but honest offerings. They are the voices of protectors who have chosen vulnerability as an act of courage. They are gifts of solidarity, meant to remind you that your pain is not too heavy, your story is not too dark, and your presence is not forgotten. If there is one truth woven through all these voices, it is this, that you are not alone. The protectors and families of the fallen who have written here, whether in uniform or out of it, whether living with loss or carrying unseen wounds, are walking beside you. They write to tell you that your worth has not diminished, that your presence matters, that your story belongs in the great tapestry of service and survival. They write so that the weight you carry might be soothed and begin to heal through solidarity and tribe. They are written so that you may find in these pages not only comfort, but also the courage to keep moving forward. The letters you are about to read are raw, vulnerable, and unflinchingly real. They may stir memories you have long held back. They may bring tears or even anger, but they will also inspire you as well as offer hope, connection, and the reminder that healing is possible, not in isolation, but in community. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and step into the circle of these voices. Here, you will meet veterans who have carried the weight of battle, first responders who have stood at the edge of chaos, and families of the fallen who have borne the unimaginable loss of their loved ones. Together they speak as truth, stronger than despair. They remind us that we belong to one another, that we are stronger together, and that no protector ever truly walks alone. May their words find you exactly where you are, and may they remind you of this one unshakable truth, which is that you are not alone.